Good evening, Guardians. You're probably listening to this in the morning, but welcome back to Tower Casual's Destiny podcast. I am your host, Josh. Of course, we're here talking about the brand new Vesper's Host Dungeon. And there was only one person fit to join me here. Part of the Forever Fireteam. The one and only Joasis is here. I needed somebody who struggled on contest with me to be here for this one. Someone who managed to get the icebreaker when I did not. Someone who was in the trenches. Joe, how are you?
I suffered a lot this weekend to not get it clear, but
we did not. Spoiler alert, there was no contest clear. I felt very proud of us, though, for as tired as we were, making it to, and we did not cheese anything either, making it to the final boss.
I was happy that we beat the 50 servitors and a trench coat boss.
Oh my god, dude, that this is a fucking wild dungeon. Okay, like just for starters, these encounters. Okay, this is the most raid-like dungeon we've ever gotten. If this is a taste of what dungeons are going to be like going forward, we're about to be eaten so good. Except for one thing. I have one gripe about this dungeon that we'll get to regarding the final boss, but I think right away when you load in, you're already doing a mechanic, very opening area, just to start the traversal section. I thought that was a very nice touch. You are immediately reintroduced to our old favorite buffs, or infamous buffs, if you want to call them that, from the Deepstone Crypt, implemented better here than they ever were in Deepstone, mind you, with operator and operator and scanner. Of course, you're shooting keypads, but there's a new little twist to them. You get to shoot them, but they light up on the screen as to which ones you're supposed to shoot. That was a nice little twist. There is a way with the scanner to tell if it is the real one or not. And we're trying to figure this out on contest, and those ads hit so fucking hard in that first area. I will have everyone know, Joe did this completely by accident the first time, hit all four of them correctly without scanner. Hit all four of them, and then we all died to trip mines. So
I walked in, I saw operator and panels, I shot 4 of them, and it allowed us in, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I saw scanner there,
yeah,
and I was like, why is this here?
we couldn't figure out why we needed it, and I think that made it more fun, honestly. So you go through this first traversal section of this Braytech station, and you get down to a very Deepstone Crypt looking room, and you're just like, oh boy, here we go. I will have everybody know, I walked up to go activate the encounter. I did not have my game audio turned on, nor did I see the marking on the ground of the brig. We got demolished by the brig immediately. It immediately landed on us, and we had to wipe. We had to wipe right there. The timer on this encounter, so this is a pretty standard encounter. Get the bombs, dunk them. However, getting to the bombs and getting the bomb to even be able to pick up it and run it back in a relay is anything but conventional for Destiny. This is the beginning. This and the opening traversal section is the beginning of a lot of running, marathon running you'll be doing in this dungeon. There are 3 separate rooms you have to go to. And God, the difficulty difference between this in regular and contests was night and fucking day. It is wild how much easier this was off contest. There were about half the amount of ads. The yellow bars died faster. They put 4 chunky yellow bars between you each time you went down and came back from those rooms. On top of that, there was a brig every time you picked up a bomb and came back to the main room. That was pretty hefty as well. You do this 3 times, and when you're bringing the third one back, surprise, There is a giant servitor in there.
Boss rig.
Brother, you had on. I want to highlight this to everyone who did this on normal. We had so much extra time. We were fucking around. We were goofing off. Joe eager edged from one area to the next because he had died during a jumping area, and just eager edged over to John and I as we were going for the next one.
And was back in the races immediately.
It was so funny. We lost a bomb. We waited around for everyone to spawn. We went and picked up the buffs and came back and redid everything with no problems. That's another gripe. Like if you lose the bomb, like or something like that, there should be a very easy way to pick that back up.
Yeah, we had to kill the like third like boss brig twice.
Yeah, we had to kill that brig. We had to kill the big boss. We had to kill the big boss twice because we lost the bomb. On contest. So everybody's going to go do this on normal. And they're going to be like, oh, okay. I don't know why people were freaking out about this. To put a DPS check that early in the dungeon, I thought was kind of brilliant. Warlord's Ruin is the first dungeon we've ever had with 3 straight DPS checks. This is the second. This is how dungeons are going to be going forward, I hope. But that 6-minute timer was oppressive.
I thought it was perfect.
I want to go ahead and say I understand this was not supposed to be simple. This was not supposed to be easy. That timer, I think, is what did a lot of teams in more than the lives. Because once you get the pattern down, you can live. But man, those yellow bars can very easily one-shot you. The dregs can very easily kill you. I will say the MVP of our entire run, and the legend started here, fucking Ergo Sum. I did not think I would say those words.
The legend of Ergo Sum.
The legend of Ergo Sum is what our run will forever be known as. Of course, you guys know we're tackling a dungeon day one. A1 Johnny's there with us. He brought his sword in on contest, and we were like, okay, we'll see how this goes. When I say he was soloing these hallways and rooms, he was doing it. He was just clearing the path. I was bomb runner. Him and Joe were clearing everything. Joe was scanning. I was op and bomb runner. We had it down to a science. But I like the timer in some regards because it really made you think about, okay, what room can we shave 5 to 10 seconds off in? And the importance of getting just the perfect rotation. Like in one of them, you're going into something that looks very much like it's out of the Shadow Thief Strike from Destiny 1. It very much looks like Tanix's Catch, actually. And when you go in there, there's one panel off to the right and there's 3 off to the left. 2 on the ground, 1 on the top. If you get those 4 as your rotation, you are golden. You are fucking golden. That was the room that screwed us up more than anything else, I think. Because you have to get right up on the panels to figure out if they're real or fake.
Yeah.
And you're trying to move while calling things out. And if there's even a second in voice delay, as we found out, that can screw your entire run.
We died to that more than anything.
Honestly. I feel like we died to that more than anything once we figured out the rotations pretty quickly. When we finished our run, the boss was enraged as I was dunking. He was already on the screen enraged. Like, we literally, the last possible second. I cannot tell you how many incredible players, like, straight up, like, very, very, very good players I saw do this encounter with the exact same thing. Like, they were finishing with, like, 10 seconds or less. Or they were finishing when it was enraged.
And that is why I think the amount of time that they gave was perfect.
I think it's good. I'm glad the timer is not there for normal or, as far as we know, for master. I'm very glad it's not there for those.
Yeah.
However, going forward, that's a modifier I would love to see be able to apply through the new modifier screen that's coming with Apollo. I would actually like to be able to have the option to put something like that on for extra loot.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Because I even feel like if you were doing that even on normal with like a 5-6 minute time limit, I feel like you would still be pretty pressed because you're still having to do the traversal no matter what.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
So
that's why I was actually like a really big fan of the timer. Like it in
mhm.
contest, not because how I've always kind of viewed contest is it's kind of forcing you to like completely learn every single encounter on the spot, and that timer actually gave me like a really deep normally not non-boss encounters in dungeons like kind of suck most of the time. They're no normally you just doing the same thing like
Mhm.
3 or 4 times and then it's over. The timer, I felt it gave me like a really deep appreciation for like how the encounter was designed
I
because
was
you had to get perfect at it almost.
I was very surprised that this felt like a raid encounter. While I mean, it's literally ripped out of Deepstone Crypt. That's what this is. This is ripped out of Deepstone Crypt.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that so much because it was like, oh, there's an actual like raid style mechanic, which we've seen them flirt with before. I think most notably, I think back to like the symbols in Ghost of the Deep, for instance. I think back to that. That felt like a raid mechanic, but again, like you said, that was pretty much
Yeah.
something that we did like 3 different times. Just they added a different twist on it each time. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, which is fine, whatever. I actually quite like the final fight of Ghost of the Deep. The more I think about it, that feels like a raid encounter. Um,
Yep. That's why it's that's why
but
I haven't soloed that dungeon is because
mhm.
getting to damage takes like 3 million years because you have to do
But let,
all
let
that
me
alone.
tell you, man, like just straight off the bat with this first encounter, you could tell this was, I mean, just the opening traversal, even, you could tell this was a different type of dungeon than we'd gotten before. Like, the last dungeon I did was, that I did most recently was we did a Spire run to get
Mhm.
John and I Hierarchy of Needs. And, man, that dungeon is that is like a battleground compared to this. Like
Yep.
in terms of quality, like don't get me wrong, I really like the duality dungeon. In terms of quality, it's like two separate games. It's not even it's a fucking joke, man, when you think about those. Like, I really enjoy Warlords. I think Warlords is one of the best dungeons they've ever done, and even that I think is a far cry from this. That I think I like the theming of it more than anything. I hate the mechanic in that dungeon.
Warlords
Um,
is almost like a gimmick dungeon, but like
mhm.
in the the best way.
Yeah, I think it's really cool though. This was awesome. We're all celebrating, and then you go into the next area, and you suddenly have this giant servitor chasing you that is shooting out flaming orange balls. And it was really fun figuring out this encounter too. I actually think this should have been an encounter personally. Um and I think it's funny because I think like Bungie a year ago, this would have been an encounter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think this would
This
have been
would have been like a
it
second encounter
yeah, in the
in
past,
between bosses. Yeah.
this dungeon would have ended at the second boss. It would have ended at servitor boss.
Oh yeah.
Um and whether you think that that's good or bad is up for debate. The fact of the matter is, where we normally would expect this dungeon to end, it keeps going because there's been so much traversal up to this point. It keeps going. You have an awesome jumping puzzle, which is really fun to fly through if you're amplified or using Eager Edge. This was really, really fun to do. That second encounter, though, I guess if I should just back up, this this was a trip to figure out. We spent so many minutes trying to figure out if, oh, well, you're dropping op first. Surely we need to be shooting stuff down here first. Nope. Grab it and bank it. And getting up top, I've never been so scared of Shanks in my entire life.
Shanks gave us
Like,
all
even
PTSD.
the only time I've ever been that scared of Shanks are sniper Shanks on GMs. I've never been scared of a regular Shank. I've never been scared of exploding Shanks. We were yelling out to each other where they were so that we weren't dying.
It was that was our biggest hang up on that fight for a
Yeah,
while.
for a
Because
long while.
the Shanks were tanky as hell for no reason. Like, I knew exactly what they they were doing when they decided to, like, even the specific placements of the exploding ones, like,
Mm-hmm.
they would come up and, like, they were a little, like, unpredictable at certain times, and it was just like, as soon as you got in there, everyone, eyes up, fucking pay attention, because it was if one got one of us, they got all three of us.
Yeah. It would very quickly spiral. We turned the middle of that arena though on the bottom level into John's personal Thunderdome though. Between the healing turrets, the volt shot that I was proccing, he was proccing it too off of his sword. The God, dude, it was awesome. It was awesome to just watch occasionally. Like I'm shoot. We finally decided to put on. We all put on Lost Signal, the grenade launcher from uh,
Echoes.
Echoes. I was like,
Yeah.
what did we just go through? I keep calling it Undying 2.0 to people, and that's
It's
what I was about to
unforgettable. So.
call it. Echoes. We were using Lost Signals in there to spread the AoE damage all around the arena. We were just making so much ammo for each other that we could just main that with no problem. I was running that with the new seasonal pulse rifle, is what I was running. And then you get to the actual boss, and it's really cool because Suppressor comes into play, and it has a brand new function, which it took us a while to figure out too.
It's so
Suppressor
funny too.
Suppressor binds to your grenade button, and you have to drop a decoy somehow without dying. We had to find an exact place to do it on contest. On normal, it's a little bit more forgiving. Um, and you do that, you drop the decoy, and that's what causes this giant servitor boss to break apart. And again, took us a little while to figure out. Oh, two servitors are totally different. They're all named 0 through 9. They're all named, or 10 through 9. They're all 1 through 10, whatever. They're all named, and you have to find the two that are glowing, and those are your numbers. And then rinse and repeat. Once you have 4 of those, you punch them all in, and you get to do DPS. That was so cool, but then the DPS is all about AoE damage, which makes it even cooler because now it's like, oh, now I get why Tether didn't work in this dungeon. Okay.
Yeah, Tether would have really made that shit easy.
It would have made it ridiculously easy. Also, I can definitely see, like, if you use Tether in that encounter, I can also understand why guitar errors were proccing.
Oh,
So so that was an absolutely crazy encounter. We finished that, and we're like, all right, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. Full disclosure, we got all the way to this boss on Friday night. In about 4, it took us about 4 hours to get from the very start of the dungeon to second boss. We spent a good chunk of Saturday afternoon on this boss, figuring it out, and then we did the traversal to final. Final boss is where we finally called it. We finally called it on contest. We gave it the old college try. We had that first room down to a science.
Yeah. I don't even think
Um,
we made it to DPS on contest.
we
But it
did
was
not because it all went
Yeah.
downhill once we jumped
Yeah.
down the tubes. So you have the same mechanics here, but they all change. There are 2 knights sprinting around, 2 fallen knights, captains, whatever you want to call them, running around that have radiation bubbles around them. You have to proc suppressor on them to get them to go after it, to break their radiation shields, and then they go down just super easy. We were just destroying them on contest. While you have the boss sniping you in this little room, this little tiny room, You have to get scanner to figure out which number op needs to shoot, and there's 4 panels that operator has to shoot in this room. They're all labeled 1 through 4, and there's 4 of each. Once you do that, 4 tubes open up, and you have to go down the side that has the flat. This is how ridiculous this is. You have to go down the side with the flashing lights. Then you have to determine which hallway has the flashing lights, run down that hallway, go in there, pick up all your buffs again. Scanner has to identify the real enemy out of the fakes running around. There are multiple enemies in there with radiation bubbles. The boss is still sniping you. Op is trying to shoot the 4 hidden panels, and they are pretty hidden the first few times you do them, and then you just like know them like the back of your hand. You're doing all this, and in all that, you have to pick up a bomb, run it into a safe room, and dunk it. Once the bomb spawns, you have about 20 seconds to do this. So good luck, because you're getting radiation from these other knights, and you have radiation for picking up the bomb, and it's ticking fast. You dunk that, and then you might think, oh, now I'm going to DPS. Nope. Now you have to go down the hallway of death, which has a ton of tripwires. It has some spider mines in there, and then you have to do this all over again in another room, and then you get to go to DPS. And I don't think words really do it justice for what it feels like when you go to DPS for the first time. You get shot up in the air onto this ruined ass platform in front of the Vex asshole that's sitting there in space. And you are just unloading into this boss thinking, my weapons ain't doing shit.
Boss was chonky and the platform was spicy.
And then the platform gets progressively spicier. The lightning you were dodging in the earlier jumping section, well, it's back. And it's worse than ever. We did not know about a safe zone when we were doing this.
Yeah.
Our run was saved basically because Joe and Johnny both went down. Thank God, I ran healing nades. I chucked a healing nade at their bodies while the lightning was still there. Landed in between lightning strikes to grab one of them. They chain rezzed each other until I could circle back to them while dodging the boss repeatedly. It was, if the Legend of Ergo Sum was the first 2 encounters, the Legend of the Jumpy Boots was definitely the boss encounter. And I didn't even have on Jumpy Boots. I was running my Nighthawk and just desperately picking up every orb I saw to fire off more Nighthawks. That was a fucking awesome boss encounter. There is no way that we would have survived that on Expert. Or contest, or whatever you want to fucking call it. We would have had to be on the safe area. We would have had to run a well. We would have had to do, had certain other classes. I saw Whisper was actually viable here, if you could be hitting your crit shots. We would have had to have way better builds than we had. And we have pretty decent ones, I think. So, this was awesome. This was awesome. You can extend your DPS phase by grabbing a bomb and running it into a safe room, which that is the most unforgiving bomb. That thing glitched through the floor twice on us. It blew up basically in our faces in the safe room once. But the time we put it all together, we did it. Like we did it. We 3-phased the boss, and it felt really, really, really good. That was such a cool dungeon. It is so cool. It is the hardest dungeon by far. It is not even a contest. This is the most difficult dungeon. But once you do it on normal and you know what you're doing, this is a fun dungeon. That is the most important thing. This is maybe the funnest dungeon that they've ever done.
Yeah, like that was one of my biggest complaints about Ghosts of the Deep is it had the nice challenge, but it wasn't it's not something I want to run all the time.
No.
This one is a fucking blast.
I was insanely happy to get Navigator when I did on that, so that I didn't have to go back to it. Once we got the once we got the catalyst, I felt no need to ever go back to it. So, great time though. I think this dungeon is awesome. This
Yeah,
is
I'm
fucking
a fan.
cool. It's the Braytech aesthetic back. We finally got that. It really feels like Bungie took the criticism of Deepstone to heart, and this was kind of their attempt at a Deepstone Crypt 2.0. I just think to myself, how much different would Deepstone have been if we had Suppressor working the way it does here? Or if we had Scanner and Op working the way that they do here. I mean, Op is pretty unchanged, I guess.
Is pretty much the same, but like there's not a ton you can really do with that
No,
anymore.
I
So.
changing Suppressor up was just enough, and I really, really love it. I also
And
like that
Scanner's
you
so
have,
cool because you like have to use the HUD or
yeah,
if you don't want to use the HUD, you can use audio cues. I think that's like a really cool like addition. And like
mhm.
upgrade.
I really, really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I think this is a blast of a dungeon. I was talking about this with our friend Dealer, and he kind of had the same thought that I did. Little concerned for the replay value of this dungeon. Not that it does not have it, but this feels like you're going to be in a similar situation to Ghost of the Deep, where just the traversal is so long in this dungeon. You have a traversal section before you even get to the first encounter. You have, which, I mean, to be fair, you can always just grab a checkpoint bot and go straight in. Like, people are going to skip that so much. I think it's the fact that you have to do an entire puzzle and you can't just run through the servitor chase. I think that's going to be another big obstacle for folks. Going from second to third encounter isn't a problem. And then it's time for my one real gripe of this dungeon. I will have you note though, like this dungeon's so fantastic that this doesn't really affect my ranking. The journey to get to DPS, even on normal, is insane for that or for that final encounter. It would have been fun, and that's why
Yeah.
it really felt like the servitor boss was meant to be the final boss in a lot of ways, because you do a lot of setup for DPS on that. I am not a fan of how long this took. I think you could have done one of the two rooms. You could have done either, oh, we go and we do stuff in this little room, dunk the bomb, and then run hallway of death, do the room again, dunk the bomb, go to DPS, or you do the top room and then you go down, run like a gauntlet to get the DPS or something. I think the fact that it takes like 10 minutes to do this each time is just insane. It is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah,
I
that's why
I'll be real. Once I get Icebreaker, I'm never doing that final boss ever again. Ever again.
well
And it's not that I
that's the
don't,
nice thing
yeah.
is with all those fancy puzzles, you really don't have to because you could like you're missing out on like one extra drop, but you can legit focus anything.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that because there's a new mechanic in this where you can focus your loot. And I think that is just awesome, especially if you're not going to do crafting just yet on these weapons. We do know it's coming with Behemoth. We know that dungeon crafting will come then. For right now, this is a pretty good stopgap.
Oh yeah,
And this
yeah,
is
and
something
it's
I want to see more of. I want to see this in raids. I want to see this here. Like raids, you can't do it in raids yet, but like you can get your red borders. You can get an extra red border on the reprised raids from Hawthorne each week and stuff like that. This is a really cool idea because, and also kudos to making almost everything drop from first encounter. By the way,
oh
I
yeah.
have the loot table right here. In the first encounter alone, you can get there's four weapons. There is a void fusion, there is a stasis heavy grenade launcher, there is a void breach loaded grenade launcher, and there's an arc auto rifle, and then there's your standard armor. But the armor doesn't drop the way you would normally expect it to. You can get every piece except the class armor. The class armor is part of a secret. It's part of the quest line you get from Spider, if I'm remembering correctly. I have not actually done this yet. I got my clear, and I have not been back into it in the last couple of days. I do believe that's how you get the class items, though. Which, if that's how you're going to do that going forward, awesome. I love it. I fucking love it. I don't think you need to do it for every dungeon. I would like to see the exotic be part of this in some dungeons, for example.
Oh
But
yeah.
I do think that's very, very, very cool. Or put a special ornament themed for the dungeon exotic as the secret chest that you can find as, part of the quest line. I think there are so many cool things you could do here. Maybe you put a special skimmer in. Maybe that's how you get the ghost or you get the sparrow or something like that. I think there are really, really cool things you can do. You can change it up in each dungeon to make it feel fresh and unique. But the fact that 3 of these weapons drop from the very first encounter. And they're the 3 best. All 4 of these weapons, actually, by the way, I was going to say 3 best. All 4 of these weapons, maybe the fusion doesn't. But for sure, the heavy stasis grenade launcher, the void breach loader, and the arc auto rifle, fuck.
Yeah, they're all like up there in the like
Specifically, that void
best in
breach
slot
loader might be best in slot.
conversation. Oh yeah. Well, because that's only the second kind of the like spray and pray frame, I guess you could call it.
And you
Because
get
the
attrition
only
orbs
other
with
one
it.
lost signal. Well, it's attrition orbs, and the origin perk gives
Mm-hmm.
energy to your closest one to being charged.
It's so nuts. This
It's
is
so
an
crazy.
absolutely nutty legendary. I cannot believe
Yeah,
they let this be a legendary. This is
yeah.
awesome. So I think that's really
It's
cool,
great.
and you can get arms, chest, and legs from it. The only thing you can't get the arc auto rifle, and you can't get the helmet from it. But they made it to the fusion drops on every single encounter. For whatever reason, the fusion drops on every single encounter. You
The
can get the
worst
heavy,
of the 3.
yeah, the worst of the 3, which I feel like is very much on purpose.
Yeah.
The heavy stasis launcher you can get on the first 2 encounters, and the void breach loader you can get on first and third. Everyone is going to farm first encounter, and for good reason. You can get basically everything. You can get, I would say, like the 2 S tier weapons are both right there. But it's both grenade
Yeah.
launchers. The arc auto rifle it's good. Don't get me wrong. I need to do more testing with it. It is good, but it is a 600 RPM. That is something to keep in mind. It is better than getting a 360 or a 450 for sure. For sure, this is better. But it's no 720. It's still really hard to be like, oh yeah, this is better than Rufus's, or hey, Chroma Rush is back this season. It's really hard to argue that it's like better than those. It does have some very, very fun perks on it though, which I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fun. If you like auto rifles, you're gonna like it, and it looks sick as hell. That is one
Oh,
of the
it looks
coolest legendary
wild.
weapons I've ever seen.
It looks
It's
wild.
awesome. It's
Mhm.
absolutely awesome. I really like this. The only thing I guess I would gripe about with this fusion, I really wish there would have been a trace rifle instead. Then I remember that we just got a legendary stasis trace rifle, so maybe it makes sense. I don't know. I think it would have been cool to see another trace here, but overall,
Or
much better loot pool than we thought when we first looked at it. We took a quick glance at it before we jumped in. Like, oh, loot pool, really? And then, like, before we're even done with first encounter, I've got people lighting me up, being like, "Oh my god, you have to get the breach loader with attrition orbs." And then, like, "Oh my god, you have to get the stasis heavy grenade launcher," which thankfully I got a couple drops of. I'm looking forward to going in and getting all of the armor. But again, once I've gotten a drop of the helmet, and once I've gotten Icebreaker, there is no reason for me to run the full dungeon past the first encounter ever again. And I think in a long dungeon like this, that is good. There needs to be a better knockout. So I know there's a knockout chance for Icebreaker. I know there's triumphs you can go do. So many of those triumphs are centered around doing things solo, though. And or doing it flawlessly without dying. I don't like that. I
no,
wish that
most of them are just like do them in a thing of clanmates. Do them
are
in a
they?
full
Maybe I was just
fire
looking at
team
the
of
title. Maybe I was only looking at
one
the
class.
title.
Oh yeah. The title always has
Okay, that's what
on the
I'm
solo
thinking of. I
achievement in it. Yeah.
apologize. I apologize for misspeaking, everybody. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking about the title ones.
Yeah, it's always a lot of like everyone run this the same class, and
Yeah.
nobody ever wants to run the same class.
No, no. And I mean, now that we're past normal, I don't think that'll be as big of a problem. Or now that normal is active and we're out of contest, I guess I should say, I don't think it'll be as bad. But I'm curious to see how this goes. I really, really, really enjoyed this dungeon. I think the loot is good. These weapons are enhanceable, I believe.
Oh yeah,
Am I misthinking that? I don't think I
basically
am.
everything is enhanceable
Okay.
now. Like
I figured it was.
everything new.
I wasn't entirely sure because I know eventually things are going to be craftable. So big fan. I think this is overall just an awesome dungeon. It was an awesome, awesome, awesome contest experience. This is how contests should be. I will say one thing that kind of irked me a little bit about this is as of Sunday morning, as you know, as we were starting to wake up, there were only about 10,000 completions on contest. That number soared to almost 30,000 within the following 5-6 hours until it was taken down because people figured out about the ball dupe glitch and about the res glitch that you could have in the final encounter. When you got to safe areas, people could leave and come back and things like that
Yeah.
with res tokens and full heavy. I do think that kind of taints it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm not sitting here gatekeeping it personally. I do know there are some folks who did it on contest who are pretty upset, but like at the end of the day, it's a fucking emblem. Like it's an
Oh
emblem.
yeah.
I think the reason that people were irritated, I mean, they're always gonna be irritated about, oh well, it's the prestige of it all, and I get it. I think the reason why I'm irritated is because there was the guaranteed icebreaker if you did it on contest. And it's like we did it legit getting to that point.
Oh yeah.
So
We even like mostly figured shit out with no help either.
we
Like
only caved. We only caved on the servitor when we couldn't figure out
wait where to fucking put it because I kept
not a
dying.
yeah, we needed the spot. Everything else we figured out on our own, and I felt really really proud of that. Honestly, I felt very proud that we
Oh yeah.
figured out the rest of it on our own. Once we went through and did it on normal, we just breezed through the whole thing. So I still think on normal that final boss is, I wouldn't say he's super hard, but it is definitely a challenging fight. This is very similar to the witness fight. I would argue this is more forgiving than that, but this is very similar.
So I'll be real. Me, John, and Max did a run last night, and I'm gonna keep calling it Dad Dado's barrel. There's a barrel that you could go and put a well on top of in
Mm-hmm.
the like front right corner, and like
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no lightning strikes on it. And even without a well, if you just like jump up on that for a bit and hop down and then jump back up, I was barely taking damage in our run last night.
Congrats. Happy for you.
It's
Thrilled.
it's there's like two or three like bomb cheese spots in
Yeah.
this arena, but like man, it is crazy that there's like rows of lightning that come and like only one is safe, and there's columns of it too. There's so much spicy lightning on this battlefield out here.
There's
Um,
so much, but it was so fun. I'm genuinely glad we
oh,
didn't
it's a
have
blast.
for our first run. I'm very glad we did not have a cheese spot. I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I much preferred just the franticness of trying to survive was a lot of fun. Now, granted, if we had been getting consistently the DPS on contest, I 100% would have cheesed it. I'm
Oh.
not even gonna
Oh
lie.
yeah.
We would have been using those
I'm
spots.
getting
I
the
wouldn't have been doing the res
clear
duping, but I
information.
would have been doing that.
Yeah, like the second we got to the final boss, I remember Josh saying like, "Oh, there's like a res glitch, and I think all of us
Mhm.
in unison were just like, yeah. So anyway, because
Yeah, it's
I,
like it's fine to
yeah,
consider. It's just I was never going to want to do it. It's also way harder to do things like that on console. To
they're
leave, leave, load into King's
a
Fall, drop a
raid.
banner, come
Yeah,
back. It's just it's not worth it.
yeah.
You know, I would because like okay, I'm gonna go through all that. What for me to fucking die in 10 seconds up there doing DPS? Like,
We're adults.
yeah.
I don't got to do that shit.
No, I would rather not get it at all than go through that, honestly. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah. No.
Well, should we consider continue on with our typical dungeon discussion slash review and go ahead and move on to where we rank this bad boy. We have a list of the dungeons prepared. Of course, you guys know what they are. Um, we have, God, I'm trying to count them up real quick. Four, eight. This is our ninth
9.
dungeon.
God damn.
We have 9 dungeons. Next season episode. Presumably, this sucker is going to drop in February. That's when the episode is supposed to end. Interested to see if they drop the dungeon right away. I imagine they will. Again, we'll be at the big 1-0. But all right, Joe, your last place dungeon, number 9.
Hmm.
I'll go ahead and answer. It's Pit of Heresy. It's Pit of Heresy for me. I think every other dungeon is just head and shoulders above it.
Yeah,
Pit of Heresy is
I
just
I love Pit of Heresy. Like it's a really cool dungeon, but it's just like I've just had better. Like, and
they've
that's
had
like Bungie's
this.
just getting better.
For me, this was a significant step down from Shattered Throne. I really love Shattered Throne, and I think part of that's it was the first dungeon. But Shattered Throne is Shattered Throne. Spoiler alert is number 8 for me
Yeah, same.
because again we've
It's
this is a radical change. I had I think I
we're
had a
past
one
that now.
Johnny on when we had Warlord's Ruin, and he put it at number 1.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Oh,
no. Shattered Throne, Shattered Throne, Pit of Heresy. We've moved so far beyond these at this point that I can't put them any higher. Above that, I'm probably gonna go. I'm gonna go Spire of the Watcher here.
yep,
I'm gonna go
same.
Spire of the Watcher at
Same.
number 6, just
Yep.
for all the things that we talked about before. It is, and Dealer has me calling it this now. This is the Connect the Dots dungeon. That's
Yep.
literally what you're doing. You're just
We're
connecting the dots.
electrical engineers in this
Yeah,
dungeon.
we went to trade school for 25 minutes. Just huge bummer. Very very easy day one. Totally fine. Whatever. Beyond that, I think they get
Now it's
better.
getting hard. Yeah.
I probably got Grasp of Avarice next.
Yeah, I think I do too. And it's funny because Grasp at Avarice, like I always say it's like one of my favorite dungeons. But it like if I'm ranking them objectively here, I'd say it's there for Army 2. It's a blast though.
The only reason that I think Grasp of Avarice is this high for me is that I genuinely love that it takes place inside the loot cave
Oh yeah.
and that you do the Sparrow race. I think both of those are very fun and very frantic. I think the Sparrow race is very frantic. I love it.
If we're talking Grasp at Avarice, like the first time ever doing it, it's like top 3. But if I'm
It was a very
ranking
good
them,
first
yeah,
experience. What keeps it down here for me is God,
Encounter 2.
Encounter 2. Dropping the
Encounter 2
shield is
is ass.
such a huge pain in the ass.
I I wish we did it twice and then fought a boss.
Yep, I would have been okay
That
with that.
would have been sick.
Yeah, I think the fact that you have to do it so many times is just such a huge pain. And if you knock one of the balls off, congratulations, you got to do a whole nother rotation.
Soft lock.
I would say so. After this is where I think it gets a little more difficult for me. For reference, we have Prophecy, Duality, Ghost of the Deep, Warlord's Ruin, and Vesper's Host left. I'm gonna go Ghost of the Deep here.
Okay. Okay.
So hear me out. I just got done bitching about how easy Duality is. I have Ghost of the Deep down here because of the traversal. The traversal is such a gigantic pain in the ass from first encounter to second encounter, and then second and third are practically back to back.
Yeah.
Getting from first to second, though, legitimately is a double digit time affair.
Like
There is no quick way to go through this.
I remember that season, and like the little through water thing was okay. It was a little gimmicky thing for like the very short in between sections.
Mm-hmm.
And I even thought it was used appropriately on the final boss, and it kind of gave you like a safe space too. But that in between section is the most boring shit ever,
I
and it's
think
not
that
fun.
I think things like this are cool ways to keep the spirit of a season alive. If you're going to keep vaulting seasonal content, I think it's a cool way to keep it alive. But man, you could have cut at least half of that out and gotten the same effect, I think.
Well, and so like the thing is, they normally will put like half of like they'll normally have a traversal section in between like a bit at the start in between second encounter, and then or in between first and second, and then in between second and third. They just
Mhm.
put all of it in between first uh, uh, and second encounter.
I'll be honest,
Every minute of it.
I would have been even more annoyed knowing that I had to go do another one of these though. I'm not even going to front.
Oh yeah, no. I thought it like I that is a portion of what I don't like. That's about all I don't like about Ghosts of the Deep. Other than um solo gripes, but I the that's really the only thing I don't like about Ghosts of the Deep. But
Yeah.
yeah. But
Uh
I'm going duality here.
that's fair. I'm going duality next for what it's worth. I got duality at number 4.
Um, Or do I still have one, two, three?
You should have 4 left.
Yeah. Here, yeah, I'm probably gonna go. I'm probably gonna go prophecy here.
Oh, you've got Ghost above Prophecy?
I do.
Ooh.
I will say, soloing like the solo experience.
Okay.
The solo so the solo experience on prophecy is a lot better. But just the I hold it like the final boss arena and like the basically like encounter 2 and 3 in Ghosts of the Deep holds a very special place in here. I just
That's
think
fair.
that like the if they cut out most of the through section, that dungeon's a top 3. Or I guess it is a top 3, but still it would be higher.
That's fair. I've got Prophecy at number 3 personally. I love Prophecy. The aesthetic of it, the both the loot refreshes we've gotten have been great. This is this is still a fun dungeon to me. I love the Rubik's Cube room. I
Oh yeah.
love the Sparrow Ribbon section. I still get sniped to this day or fall off because I'm getting too aggressive. I really like it. I love the final boss. I like how you have to keep moving during the final boss.
Oh yeah.
That to me was always the idea of what a dungeon could be.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And until last year, it was my number 1 dungeon still. It took literally until the season before the final shape for this to get unseated at number 3 or as number 1. So I'm assuming at number 3 you've got Ghosts.
Yeah, Ghosts as 3.
So we've got the same top. We've got the same top 2. I'm assuming we have the same order also. Number 2 for me, Warlord's Ruin.
So 2 for me is the new one.
No fucking way! No shot!
I can't
shot!
Warlords. I haven't been able to unseat yet.
Oh God, Joe! Ugh. All right, Warlords. I've got it at number 2. I like Warlords. I have nothing against amazing, this dungeon. But this dungeon is a D&D adventure come to life, which I really love. I like that it has a lot of clear references to that and to things like Dark Souls. I really like dungeon crawler, going all the way back to Dragon's Lair. You know, you can think all the way back to games like that and what clearly influenced this dungeon. I really, really like it. I personally don't love the final boss on this one, and I think that's why I have it knocked down a peg. I don't fuck with the Beholder. I don't fuck with the Beholder. Nope. I have killed this fucking Taken Meatball so many different times that I'm just tired of fighting them at this point. I would rather fight Brotheon again, honestly. Mm-hmm. It's a very cool dungeon. Like, this is, if Vespers hadn't been an actual like 3-man raid, then I would have this as number 1 still. Really, what did it for Vespers for me is I loved the servitor chase and the servitor encounter are what elevate this for me. I like the final boss. Don't get me wrong, the final boss is fine, and the franticness of it. What almost had, and this is why they're almost equal for me. As much as I love the mechanics in Vespers, what almost gets at that number 2 spot for me is purely how long it takes to get to DPS on the fucking final encounter. That is what almost does it in for me.
Yeah.
Having to do that every single time is so rough. It is so annoying. But then there's secrets in it. There are, there's a whole puzzle to do it to get the class item, to get the catalyst. That
is a big reason why it almost overtook Warlords. Yeah. It did, but
I don't think you can go wrong with these. It's such a solid 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's mentally preparing me for the fact that the next dungeon we get is more than likely going to be a Hive dungeon, which I'm not super jazzed about. I was really hoping we would fight some Vex in this, because there are Vex goblins in cryo chambers that you see throughout this. Something tells me we're not quite done with this space station, but for right now, I'll let us believe that we are.
Oh, well, there's a huge anomaly, there's a huge, portal butthole
thing
there. I
genuinely couldn't believe. I couldn't believe we didn't go do anything with it. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. I feel like this is something that with one more encounter you could have made into a raid. I think that's why I have it ranked so highly for me. I love it, man. I think Warlords is the more fun one to do repeatedly, but this is the better overall. For me, this is the better overall experience. I cannot believe in a 12-month span we got fucking Warlord's Ruin, Vesper's Host, and Salvation's Edge. No, so Ghost came out last summer. It's been well over a year now. Yeah, because we're going to do that, and I got to include Crota, too. But, I mean, they have been cooking so hard post-Ron. It's like they really saw it. We're like, okay, we got to lock in. We got to lock in.
Yeah.
So, we got Pantheon in that time. It has been...
feedback.
It's been such a great experience. If this is... After playing through this dungeon, I am much less apprehensive about only getting one dungeon and one raid a year if it's going to be this high of quality, and there's going to be reasons for us to keep going back and doing it again, to hunt the catalyst, to hunt the the class item to do a quest line in there, and they did the whole quest line thing with Warlord's Ruin also with the Ahamkara bones that you could find.
Oh yeah.
And I really like all of that. I think that is, you have to find ways to make this replayable. And since they're going to be getting full weapon suites, starting with Behemoth also, and those are going to be craftable right off the bat, that's going to be a big reason for people to go repeat too. I really like the idea of where they're going with dungeons. This makes it much more exciting for me. For the first time, I kind of feel like, yeah, I want to grind dungeons for something other than just, oh, let's grab a checkpoint and go try and get the exotic. So, because even if you do it here, guess what? It's going to be like 30 minutes before you find out if you got the exotic or not. So, obviously, that's not accurate. Once you get better with it, it's like, you can two-phase it. But still, the two-phase this boss is still going to take you a hot minute. I was in there when Dealer was attempting his solo yesterday, and just how long it was taking him to do it, how many rotations he had to do, and I was just listening to him slowly descending into madness.
From what I've seen, final boss is like 6 to 7 phases on a solo.
At least.
And that was the demoralizing thing, like because I don't know if I'm getting this solo, and the only other one I haven't soloed was Ghost of the Deep, and it was
for
the most
similar reasons.
Yep, because Ghost of the Deep, I soloed. I got up to the final boss, and then I got through a clean full DPS phase, and I was on track for like a 10 phase, and I'm like, what's even the point? I don't want to be in this fight for an hour.
Yeah, and imagine if you die when there's
minutes in, I die. I was
just like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
I couldn't stand that.
No, and you have to do it solo without leaving too. Ugh.
Yep, and that is the tough thing, is I can't, get through an encounter and then go to bed, and then it was
it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but I think that's going to do it for our discussion right now on Ghost of the Deep. This is a nice, short, sweet, to the point episode. We did have some questions about Ghost of the Deep. I'm going to answer those on Thursday night's show, though, because I just asked for questions earlier today. And one of the only real questions that we got was about the lore from the dungeon, which I have not read at all, Fox. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I haven't looked into the lore. I've been in a lot of pain this weekend, so and I finally think I got it sorted today. So I plan on diving into the lore. Dealer asked us a question about assuming you have all the weapons, or at least taking a look, what's your favorite? Can't be Icebreaker. I will answer that on Thursday's show. You guys are getting a show on Thursday. I was not planning for you to have a show on Thursday, but then they decided to go ahead and announce this morning Destiny Rising. They decided to tell us a Frontiers article is coming. There's a Schwab coming, and there's apparently some stuff coming in Revenant that they want to talk about. So, yeah, we have to do a show on Thursday. I don't really have a choice. But you're going to kind of get that rolled together with a little bit of Xbox sprinkled in, because there's an Xbox partner showcase that day that Corey and I need to talk about too. So you're coming along for the ride. That's what we have coming up on Tower Casuals. Banger start to the episode so far. Really enjoying it. Really excited to talk more about tonics. I want to play around more with the tonics. Maybe that's something that we should have been doing while we were in there. I didn't even
probably,
think about that. I didn't even think about that shit, but
I've been forgetting to drink tonics.
I have too, unfortunately.
Tonics the whole time.
Probably should have thought about that, but whatever. I plan on talking about that more. I want to get more into these weapons. I want to talk dungeon weapons. I want to talk about the seasonal weapons, which some of these seasonal weapons are awesome, by the way. The hand cannon is fun. I really, really, really like that hand cannon. I was using it in contest a little bit. I really, really enjoy the pulse. The pulse is a lot of fun. My pulse Volt Shot Loving Heart. I felt so at home playing my Arc Hunter again. I've been neglecting it for quite a while, but I really, really enjoyed it. Ever since Prismatic came out, since we started doing Pantheon runs, I haven't run Arc Staff nearly as much. It felt so good to be back. Just zooming everywhere. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I was just zooming all over the place. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But I think that's going to do it, man. Joe, thank you so much for joining me last minute for this.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Nerd was originally going to join me. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so we're going to try, fingers crossed, to get him on later this week to give us the crispy details on Icebreaker's return. Because even if he's not able to join us on Thursday, we will talk about Icebreaker on Thursday's show, since I don't have it, and I might have a chance to try and get it like Tuesday or Wednesday if I play my cards right. But that's if I'm allowed to play, because I have a lot of stuff to do. So from me, from Joe, from Corey, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.